The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots to divide his clothing. And the people stood by, watching. But the leaders scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself, if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, "If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself." There was also an inscription over him, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus replied, "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Here come the kids. Oh. Come have a seat. Hi. Hi. That's cool. Hi. Hi. Have you guys ever messed up and done something that hurt somebody? Hurt their feelings or something like that? Yeah. I did that this last couple of weeks. I got angry and I said something that really hurt somebody's feelings. You know, when we do things like that, probably you were like me when you've done it, and right away you want to be able to take it back, but you can't undo the hurt. The good news is that the hurt that we do to one another is never the end of the story. Jesus can take even the ways in which we hurt each other and transform them into something else. You know, when I was little, like you guys, when I would do something, like say something mean to somebody, or do something else that I really knew I wasn't supposed to do, the first thing I always wanted to do, in fact, the first thing I did was to run and hide. Hide because I was afraid that nobody would love me again after whatever it is that I've done. Hide because I was ashamed of what I had done and didn't want to face up to it. With Jesus, though, we never need to hide. Doesn't matter what we can think of to do to each other. Jesus still loves us. And Jesus doesn't hold the bad things that we do against us. Instead, he calls us to himself, and he takes those bad things and he helps us to learn from them. And then he sends us out to love other people the same way he has loved us. Sends us out to forgive other people the same way he forgives us. So when you guys do that inevitable bad thing, when you hurt someone's feelings, remember that you don't have to hide. Remember that Jesus is ready to take even those bad moments of our lives and make them into something new. Okay? Let's go get a stamp. There you go. Where do you want it? Right there. Okay. Right there. Okay. All right. Ready? Good job. There you go. Right there, okay. There you go. Hi. There you go. Jesus is King. That's what we've come together today to celebrate. That Jesus is King, and there are no truer words than those. But I still think we need to examine them for what we mean. Because if we're not careful, those words aren't going to be as strong and helpful for us as they could be. When we think of kings, we think of golden crowns and fancy thrones. We think of palaces and power. And that's not the kind of king we get. The king we get looks like that. Broken, vulnerable, willing to meet us in our places of suffering. And that is indeed for all of us good news. I don't know about you, but most of the time what I would rather have is a king who comes kicking butt and taking names. A king who divides cleanly between right and wrong, who tromps down all those who do evil, and if he agrees with me on what that right and wrong is and who the evil ones are, so much the better. And thankfully, we don't get that. We get instead a king who hangs out there before the whole world, arms open, ready to bear whatever it is that we need him to bear, ready to take whatever it is we're willing to throw at him, so that we don't have to worry about our judgment being what stands between the world and salvation. The king we get is the king who can lead us to be like he is, rather than the king that we would create in our own image and likeness. If we let him, he will lead us the way he has gone, to the place where we too can be vulnerable and open, and indeed be broken if necessary for one another. The world needs that king. Because when we try to create the other kings that we set up in our own image, we never, ever, ever seem to get it right, no matter how good our intentions might be. Jesus alone, the crucified King, has the answer. He asks us to be crucified with him to the world, to suffer for the sake of our brothers and sisters, to know that we are not and cannot be alone, to embody that truth for others. We come here today to proclaim him our King, and hopefully, to give our lives over to that truth, to follow him through the cross into that paradise where he waits to welcome us all in a kingdom not of our own design, but of his.